in a child's life are so important because that's when they're absorbing the most information. Everything is new to them. As a parent, I love knowing that what they're watching on TV is sending a good message. I have been able to bring PBS learning media into my classroom. It's rewarding knowing that I've touched a family, touched a child, and made a difference in their life. And PBS is part of that.
You're watching New England Public Media on WGBY Springfield.
I had heard that the first person diagnosed with autism might still be alive.
Hey, Nat the cat.
Well, hi, Don, darling.
They didn't even know that Donald had autism. They just knew that Donald was Donald. I wanted to figure out, how did they get it right? Because they really did get it right.
In a Different Key, December 13th, or stream at nepm.org.
Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture in your community, including some public art that honors a longtime educator, activist, and artist.
Paintings that had content, that had a certain delivery that moved you, that challenged you, and entertained you. All of that was in Nelson's work.
Artist Andrae Green explores time, mythology, and history through his work.
You'll see figures like shifting or being blurred, or you'll see like a glitch effect. It's a metaphor I use for like memory or something that looks real but isn't.
And we'll visit an apple orchard that's a family affair.
In the world of cider making, we're a pretty small operation. We can make pretty premium cider with these old presses.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Cidalis Bauer. Every week, we explore all that the region has to offer, and today we're coming to you from Ashley Reservoir in the city of Holyoke. A beautiful spot for a walk or a hike in the fall or any time of year, right here in Western Massachusetts. But we start off our show today in the city of Springfield. During this year's Community Mural Institute and Fresh Paint Springfield's Mural Festival, 2 murals were recreated to honor longtime educator, activist, and artist Nelson Stevens. The murals, originally created back in the 70s, depict the vibrancy and richness of Black life in Springfield during a tumultuous time. A ribbon-cutting ceremony in the city opened the murals for public viewing, and producer Dave Frazier was there to bring us the story.
2, 3. All right.
The life and legacy of Nelson Stevens was celebrated recently in the Mason Square section of Springfield with a rededication of 2 murals that were originally created almost 5 decades ago. Stevens, who passed away last July, lived in the city from 1972 to 2003 and taught at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst alongside Professor John Bracey.
What Nelson did more than anybody else was he absolutely refused to make distinctions among classes and races of people. Nelson was an artist, and he didn't think you could change the world if only Black people changed, because we're not the majority of the world's population. We had to participate in a world where everybody changes.
In the early 1970s, Stevens initiated a groundbreaking public art project that resulted in the creation of over 30 murals throughout the city. The murals promoted Black empowerment and brought the pride and activism associated with the Black arts movement to Western Massachusetts.
So this is something that didn't happen anywhere else in the world and happened right here in Springfield and got erased over time by development, by politics, by people not appreciating or feeling threatened by the messages of this work. And so we're doing murals again in Springfield, and it just felt like we can't move forward if we're forgetting the past. So we were fortunate to work with Nelson before he passed away to start the process.
The 2 murals rededicated are Wall of Black Music, located at 1 Montrose Street, and Tribute to Black Women at 38 Catherine Street. Both were commemorated in separate ceremonies in late September. Among those in attendance were members of the Afro-Cobras, a Chicago-based artist collective of which Stevens was a member.
Nelson's work, my work, and all of the members of Afro-Cobra, the work was founded on a philosophy, a philosophical premise, as well as an aesthetic set of principles. Nelson's work that you see, which is a work that is speaking to one of the basic tenets of Afro-Cobra, that is works that project a positive image of black people. And so those images of Nelson's works, these two murals that were just restored, reflect that very directly.
Stevens was celebrated over the course of his life for his focus on African American culture and jazz. His signature style included bold colors, unexpected lines, and tributes to historical and contemporary iconic figures.
I call him a fractal artist. And you take the theory of fractal math, that things are exploded outward and they have an energy to pull them back into each other. So his works have that kind of exploding power.
Nelson was the reason why I started doing paintings that had content, that had a certain delivery, that moved you, that challenged you, and entertained you. All of that was in Nelson's work. All of that is what he instilled in me.
He was a black man that loved his community, respected women, respected everyone. And he made such an impact on my life.
Also in attendance on that Saturday was Stevens' daughter, Nadia, who shared her thoughts about her dad and the legacy he leaves behind.
What my dad was trying to do was to create art and make it available to folks who didn't have access to museums. He made it free, he made it accessible, he put it right in their neighborhood. He was just so brilliant and just so poetic, and he just expressed himself so beautifully, and he would always call me his brilliant and beautiful daughter, and I can still hear his voice in my head, and I'm just going to hold on to that.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England, but it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. And in this week's digital exclusive, Britt Rue, the director of Commonwealth Murals, talks about the process involved in resurrecting two of artist Nelson Stevens' murals that he helped create almost 5 decades ago.
Countless hours hand tracing every single line and dot of the mural. Then with the 10 artists that were part of the Community Mural Institute, we project those files onto these 5x5 sheets of polytab.
You can find that digital exclusive online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Locally based visual artist Andrae Green has had his work shown internationally, and his paintings are included in many private collections around the world. Originally from Jamaica, Green was awarded a full scholarship grant to further his art studies at the New York Academy of Art. Since then, he has created vibrant pieces that reference history and explore time, mythology, and memory. I spoke with Green to learn more about his creative process and how he incorporates his own personal memories and heritage into his artwork.
As early as I could remember, drawing has always been something that I was doing. Where it turned into a passion is when I went to college, and I did my first painting in college at the Edinburgh College of the Visual and Performing Arts, which is the only art school in the Caribbean. So everyone goes there. It's kind of like a mecca. And it's really cool to finally not feel like a weirdo, you know, because all your life you've been thinking a certain way, acting a certain way, and been told that you're weird. But going to that school, I realized I was the most normal one there, you know, and I started to feel at home, and I was like, wow, this is a lifestyle. This is how a group of people actually think and live. So it kind of cued me into that, and it kind of refined the ideas more, what I wanted.
Now, you describe your Jamaican identity as a hybridization of European and West African cultures. How does your heritage influence your artwork, and how do we see this hybrid identity play out in your pieces?
First and foremost, I always tell people, like, to be Jamaican is not a race. You know, I mean, we're majority Black, but at the same time, these other races are part and parcel of what it means. The motto of Jamaica is out of many, one people. So that, in a sense, is where I pull from my whole, how I treat people, you know, just growing up in Kingston, which is very diverse. Then living here in Western Mass, moving to Western Mass with my wife, it kind of, I started to reflect because I wasn't around the culture anymore. And you know, you start to get homesick and you start to long, and so your thoughts long for home, and it starts to bleed in the work, you know, a lot more than it used to when I was right there. And even the stuff behind me, it's about one memory. Me and my dad with my family would go to Kingston Harbor and just we'd watch the kids jump off the pier, you know, and it's just remembering that one thing, you know, the sunset, how the sun was, how the bodies were flying in the air and kind of seemed like they were almost flying. It's something that I cherish and I miss.
Speaking of the paintings behind you, I noticed that, you know, there's a lot of vibrancy, which reflects the Caribbean culture, but there's a lot of—
and the African culture too. Yeah.
And there's a lot of movement as well. Is there a particular technique that is yours that when someone sees it, they know this is an Andrae Green painting?
I hope so, because I'm in the middle of it. It's kind of hard for me to say, but I feel like most of my work deals with memory and time. So a lot, you'll see figures like shifting or being blurred into, or you'll see like a glitch effect. It's a metaphor I use for like memory or something that looks real but isn't, which is like a hallmark for maybe it's not being remembered right, or maybe I'm not understanding it right, you know. So little cues like that, I think, carry on with the work. And also too, people have told me like the color sensibility, the vibrance is something that they see from body of work to work.
One thing that stood out to me was that in an interview with the Art Salon, you mentioned that you don't necessarily see the images in your head, but it's more of a feeling that comes to you. What is your creative process like? How are you able to kind of trust your own intuition and follow it to create one of your artwork?
So for me, it's looking at a lot of artwork, familiarizing myself. I'm always like looking at new art, going to museums, driving even for like a couple hours down to New York to see a show that I want to see. And that's just being inspired and constantly looking out for stuff, drawing also too. I draw as much as I can. And then just filling that reservoir. So over time, and then with practice, of course, you have to be in here every day or as much as you can for it to feel like, for you to stop like thinking about it and just doing it, and then it becomes an extension. So I think after all of that is being done, then you have a kind of gut sense.
I want to touch on some of the themes that your paintings are about. So you like to show time, mythology, memory, history. Why are those the themes that really resonate with you? And what do you see as the purpose of your art?
And for me, like part of the duty of an artist, if you can say the artist has a duty, is to kind of mark where we are visually as a people, as a race, as a culture. And that's why I feel like it's important. I pick stuff that's important to me, things that I want to understand. I want to understand, why do we believe the things we do? Why do we see the way we see? And of course, I do it through my own subjective lens of I'm a Black male, grew up in a certain time, in a certain place, so I see the world a certain way. So when the phenomenological experiences of this time happens to us, I interpret it a certain way, and it kind of gives the world and I hope posterity a snapshot of where we were. I'm doing, especially these works, you see people outside jumping, twisting, all of that stuff. For me, it's a direct, I'm trying to find, and I never actually said this out to anyone before, but I'm actually trying to give an antidote to what I felt was the lockdowns, what people felt. So you're inside all the time. You can't go anywhere. You feel depressed, and they said suicide rates went up, since COVID, since the 2 years. So for me, I want to give people images that release them, that help them know whether you're black or white. I'm using the black male body because I am, but to help feel release, to help know or remind them that you are free if you can be in a state, a good mental state, and then so that's why I'm thinking about. That's why I was thinking about the memory of my dad, because that's one of the things that hit me, those kids jumping, and it's just that exhilaration and freedom.
In the fall, there's nothing more quintessentially New England than sipping a glass of cider on a chilly day. Apple orchards and farms are as much a part of autumn in these parts as leaf peeping and pumpkin pie. And in our next story, Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan visited one of those farms in Colrain, Massachusetts, and found a father and son who love growing apples and pressing cider.
It's mid-morning here at Pine Hill Orchards in Colrain, Massachusetts. And that means somewhere within the confines of this 70-acre property, there's a father and son combo doing what they've been doing for nearly their entire lives, running an apple farm. Each may be considered trendsetters in today's climate, where there's been a renewed movement to get out of the city and back to the country. Matt Shearer was well ahead of that curve back when he was just 20 years old.
I went to college, I went to Stockbridge, and came back right after Stockbridge in '96 and have been here ever since. And it's really gratifying. I love riding around our farm and seeing all of this, and I wanted to stay here and keep doing it.
As for Dad, that plan started back in 1970 when his father decided that the orchards were too much of a burden to keep up with.
I didn't like milking cows, and I actually was in school to study pomology and plant growing. So I came home one day and my father said, "I don't want to take care of the orchard anymore. Do you want it?" I think it was 4 o'clock in the morning. He was going out, I was coming in, and I said, "Yeah, sure." So I'm in the apple business.
And so far, business is good. While several other wholesalers fell by the wayside over time, Pine Hill continued to chug along by shifting their focus to retail and keeping things local. Having this walk-in refrigerator has been a nice touch that customers seem to enjoy. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without hot and fresh cider donuts being made right here on the premises. Operations around here start first thing in the morning and run all year long.
It starts pretty early, usually around 7 a.m. The guys get started, they're going to go out and start picking. From there, it depends on what we're doing for the day, so it's either picking to pack apples or picking to press cider. When we pick to press cider, the apples come in, they go inside the building. If they're not going to get stored right away, then they're going to go right into cider. They go out back to the cider hole, they get dropped into the hopper, and then we start pressing from there.
Pine Hill Orchards can be found smack dab in the middle of the main road that runs through town, so it's pretty hard to miss, although there were a couple of years when it wasn't so visible.
It hasn't always been smooth sailing here. Back in 2001, an electrical fire burned this entire building to the ground. Actually, it wasn't the entire building that burned down. There was one room that somehow managed to survive.
That would be the cider room, and thank goodness it did. Also, thanks to the reinforced concrete walls that protected it from the fire. Not to sound hyperbolic, but this room is quite literally the heart of the operation. If those countless bushels of apples plan on becoming cider, they're coming through here. So exactly how much cider gets pressed and pumped out of this room?
It depends on the day, but we make about 12 to 1,400 gallons of cider a day this time of the year. We're making it most days. We've really built that cider business up over the last 10 years or so, and we're making 120,000 gallons of cider a year.
We have a old rack and cloth press, which has been retrofitted to meet all today's standards. So in the world of cider making, we're a pretty small operation, but we can make pretty premium cider with these old presses.
Pine Hill is just one of dozens of orchards statewide, each unique in their rustic New England charm. There's a reason that the field trip to the local farm has always been a favorite for school-aged children, or why Pick Your Own season brings people out in droves from far and wide. It's for the experience, and farming families like the Shearers know this and are more than happy to oblige the public.
We want people to come here and have a full farm experience and enjoy what we love doing every day. So we try to give them that, and we're proud of what we do and we love what we do, and we want to share that with our community. We try to get involved with the community and do other things too. We like to have different events here and really kind of share our farm with everyone else.
And you can learn more about Pine Hill Orchards as owners David and Matthew Shearer talk about what it's like working with each other in a digital extra.
And the trailer trucks would come in the middle of the night, and we'd have to load them. And back then you had to pile them by hand, so you put 1,000 bushel in a truck. He used to come out when he was 6, 7 years old in the middle of the night and run forklift for me.
That digital extra is available online at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Serving around 200 students in Franklin and Hampshire County, the Literacy Project provides free high school equivalency preparation classes for adults. With the goal of having its participants engage meaningfully and equitably in the economic and cultural aspects of their communities, the nonprofit offers a number of resources. I spoke with the executive director and some students to learn more.
We are in small local nonprofit just in Franklin and Hampshire County. We're in 5 towns: Amherst, Northampton, Greenfield, Orange, and Ware. And we're a GED preparation program. So our students are studying in 5 subject areas: reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. And we really believe that it's never too late to learn, that everybody deserves a second chance at success, and that education is truly the stepping stone to a better life. So most of our students come to us saying that they want to get their GED, their high set, so that they can get a better job. But there's also a ripple effect to this, because more than half of our students are parents. And so they're better able to help their kids with the kids' homework once they attain their education goals. So literacy really, really changes lives.
And I know that everybody has a different reason for taking classes at the Literacy Project. So Deb and Christian, what are your stories behind why you decided to start joining classes at the Literacy Project?
I joined the Literacy Project because I had gone down a horrible path. I had some personal issues going on in my life where I was just mentally unstable, and I was very unhappy. I got to the point where I even wanted to take my own life, and I ended up in the hospital. And when I woke up, I decided, I decided to stop drinking, which drinking was something that it was a big issue for me. Mm-hmm. I drank every day. I mean, I was spending like $300 a week on drinking alone, just drinking. Mm-hmm. So I got out of the program that I was in, and I came up to this house. It's called the Vandenberg House here in Greenfield. It's a sober house, and that's where I am now. And one day I was upset about something. Something started bothering me, and I decided, you know what, I need to do something. I need to keep my mind busy, and I called Literacy Project. And I talked to Josh out there. He's a very great guy. I love Josh. Very easy to talk to, and he helped me zip right through it. I think I was with Literacy Project, 4 or 5 days, and I passed my high set. And the same day that I passed it, I got into GCC.
And Deb, what was your reason behind joining the Literacy Project?
I was a high school dropout, and I ended up getting pregnant young. I was 18, so I tried to go back to school. I just decided to do motherhood. And I tried again when I had my daughter, when I was 26. That didn't work out. And I just said, forget it. I'm never going to try again. I'm obviously never going to get my GED. And then I moved from the city and I came to Greenfield and I reached out to a school. I said, I need to do something with my life. You know, I'm 37 now. And then my son just graduated from high school in June, and he made me cry on graduation day because he said to me, he said, Mom, look, I did the one thing that you couldn't do, and that was graduate. And that hurt me so bad that I said, you know what, I'm going back to school. So I came here in July, I started in September, I graduated from, you know, getting my high set in December. So I was like so proud of myself that I did it within the same year that my son graduated, because I told him, I said, you're going to eat your words, buddy. You're going to eat your words. And I sure did. So the first phone call that I made when I passed my high set was to my son. And I said, well, bud, I guess you'll be coming to my graduation. So I'm like so excited for graduation in June.
As an adult, that the hardest part of starting something new is just having the courage to even begin it. So what words of encouragement do you all have that you would like to share with somebody that might be in the same situation?
What I would say is just do it and you'll be surprised what you can do. And that will give you a lot of fuel to keep going. You know, it's to get yourself out of that rut, that feeling like worthless, that feeling like you're stuck. Just do it. There's no secret formula. You know, no one's going to come through that front door and be like, come on, I'm going to take you along and we're going to get your goals. No, you just got to get up and do it.
Have a good mindset and know that knowledge is power. You know, you're never too old to do anything. I'm 37 and I'm going to continue this. I'm probably going to be in college till 80, 90 years old.
And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Our thanks to the City of Holyoke for hosting us today. And please be sure to join us again every week right here for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Cidalis Bauer. Thanks for watching and take care.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
I had heard that the first person diagnosed with autism might still be alive, and he might be living in this small town in Mississippi.
Hey, Nat the cat. Hey, RC.
Well, how you doing, darling?
They didn't even know that Donald had autism. They just knew that Donald was Donald.
He's our guy.
I wanted to figure out, how did they get it right? Because they really did get it right.
In a Different Key, December 13th, or stream at nepm.org.
On American Experience.
The hostages are in our hands.
444 days that transfixed the world.
I said to myself, why am I a prisoner? Why me?
Taken hostage on American Experience.
Taken Hostage, Monday and Tuesday at 9 on NEPM. Stay on top of the arts in our region with NEPM's Culture To Do e-newsletter. Read about local performances and openings, and find out about upcoming features on Connecting Point. Get Culture To Do delivered right to your inbox every week. Stay connected with NEPM's e-newsletters. Sign up at nepm.org.
I'm cutting my own way through my own day.
Meet American Masters singer, songwriter, actor, and activist Buffy St. Marie, who has inspired us for decades.
Her songs encapsulate all of time, speaking now and sending it into the future.
Enjoy seeing Buffy St. Marie carry it on.
What else?
Only on American Masters.
A portrait of Buffy St. Marie, November 22nd on NEPM.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Once money's involved, people can get very greedy.
I took every possible step to find you.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport on the PBS app. Download it today.
3,500 years ago, the ambience here was quite different. It was incredibly quiet. This silence was only disturbed by events like the funeral of Tutankhamun.
We have to admit that he was king. The question is, when did he get this title? Nefertiti, she could be his enemy.
And this summarizes the restoration of the religion from Aten to Amun.
Watch live November 23rd at 8 or stream at nepm.org.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
Local broadcast of This Old House Hour on NEPM is brought to you by Wright Builders, celebrating 50 years of institutional, commercial, and residential construction in Western Massachusetts, committed to ending reliance on fossil fuels, lowering operational energy usage, and reducing embodied carbon. Wright-Builders